So hello everyone, happy Halloween Horror Nights 31 rumor season. It is kicking off, a nice early start to the season. We have our first rumors map. We have a lot to discuss and a lot to look forward to in this post-anniversary year. I'm a little rusty. It's been a while since I filmed one of these. However, before I get too far into the video, I do want to introduce myself. So if this is the first video of mine that you have ever seen, hi, I am Liz. I have been attending Halloween Horror Nights since 2001. And as of last year, I also now run HHN Rumors. So if you follow HHN Rumors on Twitter, hi, I'm the person behind the account. I'm Liz. So this channel is obviously my personal YouTube channel. I typically do weekly vlogs and wellness vlogs and theme park vlogs, but I also discuss the Halloween Horror Nights rumors. And then in the fall, I vlog all the things Horror Nights. So let's kick off this HHN31 season with our first rumors map. So if you've been around for a while, you know the last few years at least, I've been covering the maps that Horror Night Nightmares releases every year, and they usually release a few of them along the way. And this year is no different. I am still going to be covering all of the maps that they release. Today we got version 1.0. Now I do want to do a few disclaimers here. One, it's very early in the rumor season. Even in their tweet, they made sure to point out that this is speculation. This is rumor. Obviously it's educated guesses and there's information flowing behind the scenes, but nothing is locked in stone yet. So I just want to preface this with, don't get your heart too set on anything that's on that map because it is only March. It's very early in the rumor season. Things are just swirling behind the scenes. There's still a lot of unknowns. So I just want to temper your expectations. You can get excited, but just don't get your heart set because things will change. I can say with 100% accuracy that this map is not going to be the final map. My second disclaimer is that some of the things that I have heard behind the scenes do not match with this list. So I already think there's a few things on this list that either aren't accurate or might have already changed, and we'll probably see some changes on their next map. So I'm going to discuss the map as it is, and at the end I'm going to discuss some of my thoughts on the map. So their map currently has, I think what they're considering as 7 IPs, because I believe they're considering Pandora's Box to be an IP, and 3 originals. I'll tell you right off the bat, what I've been hearing is 6 IPs, 4 originals, but we'll come back to that. Let's go through the IPs first because those are the most straightforward, the least amount of discussion about them. So the first IP on their list is Universal Monsters, The Mummy versus Wolfman. I am all for the Universal Monsters properties. We get an original that's under an IP name, and I'm all for having more original houses than IPs. So to me, the classic monsters takes those houses that have been coming out the past couple years, those still feel like originals. Like you can't tell me you walk through Universal Brides and we're like, oh, this is an IP. Yes, it's a character that we all know, but it's an original take on an IP. So I'm excited for this. For me, I mean, obviously there is an expiration point where we can't do any more classic monsters houses because we've gone through them all. And technically we have seen all of these before, but we haven't seen Mummy versus the Wolfman. So I'm still here for it. I'm here to see what story they create for it and excited to see where it goes. Next up we have Fear Street, which is a Netflix movie series. I have not watched it yet. I am putting it on my Horror Nights homework. I feel like I'm gonna love it because I know it goes through different time periods. I read some of the Fear Street books when I was a teen. I just haven't watched them yet. So I will reserve comment for once I've watched them to see how I think they will apply to Horror Nights house, but I've heard some divisive talk on whether or not it fits as a house or not. From what I've seen, I think it would work as a house, maybe going through, because I think there's 3 movies, right? So I think you could have 3 sections, kind of like American Horror Story where you're going through different seasons. I think you go through 3 different time periods in the house, but I'll watch the movies and get back with you once I've seen them. Next up we have The Last of Us, which is a video game, but it's getting turned into a TV series. I haven't played the game. I did look up a little bit of gameplay just to kind of get familiar with it, and it looks like it's a zombie video game. So y'all know how I feel about zombies. They are not my favorite, but more on that later. Then we have The Curse of Pandora's Box, which I believe they're considering as an IP because it's taken from Hollywood. It's a Horror Nights Hollywood house, unless that's based on a property that I'm just not familiar with. But I have seen the walkthroughs of the Hollywood house, and it's an interesting concept, but correct me if I'm wrong, it has potential. But we'll come back to that one later too. Then we have The Evil Dead. Zombies, right? Again, I am not a fan of the Evil Dead franchise. I know a lot of you out there are. I just don't do zombies. Zombies are not my thing. The only zombie film, no, I take it back. There are 2 zombie films I like. 28 Days Later and Shaun of the Dead. Those are the only 2 zombie films I've ever enjoyed. I just don't like the concept of zombies. I don't find them scary, especially in haunted houses. They're just not my thing. So some of you interested in Evil Dead, I understand, just not my thing. Then we have Halloween. Now, we've seen Halloween at the event a few times already. We had the original house, we had Halloween 2/3, and then we had Halloween 4. So we've gone through the early era of Halloween. The new movies are coming out. We had one last year, right? And we have one coming out very soon. So it does make sense to see Halloween at the event. And we did have a little bit of a break, and they have been repeating IPs. So we did just see Texas Chainsaw Massacre return. It would not shock me to see Halloween back again, especially with the new movies coming out. And then for probably the most controversial IP of the event so far, we have The Weeknd. Now, there was a lot of discourse about Billie Eilish getting a house in 2020. She would have had a house in 2020 had the pandemic not happened, but it did, and then her house got scrapped. So we got Legendary Truth out of it, which I have no complaints about because Legendary Truth was so fun, and so I'm kind of glad Billie Eilish got canceled, although I would have loved to see what they did. So it feels like they're taking that concept of having a musical artist who has horror themes in their music videos and bringing them into the event to do an IP, but it's really an original, right? Because it's going to be original concepts just using the IP name. I'm all for originals. You guys hear me say this over and over and over. I am team originals. And to me, this is a way of getting an original with an IP label. Ooh. Thunder. I don't know if you guys can hear that, but I'm adding theming elements to my videos now. I know that The Weeknd does horror themes in his videos. I don't really see how the music translates to that, because to me the music is much more pop and happy feeling than say Billie Eilish. Some of Billie's songs sound creepy. I don't really associate The Weeknd songs with being creepy. So I'm not sure if they will actually incorporate his music into the house or if he's just helping collaborate with concepts. Maybe he's making original music for the house. That would be cool. I feel like this one's going to get a lot of flack online. Curious to see what the reaction is overall, but I think there's a lot of potential and I'm trying to keep an open mind on it. So those are the IPs that are on this first map. Moving into the originals, which obviously it's going to be hard to judge what these truly are this early in the event, but we have Seaside Village, El Chupacabra, and Underground Creatures. El Chupacabra, let's touch on that one for a moment. If you follow HHN Rumors, you may have seen an article we put out in February that talked about the 2-park rumor for 2012. And in that article, we mentioned a house from 2012 that got axed because of Transformers. So if you were around Horror Nights during that time, then you probably remember this because it was a very dramatic time, especially on all the forums. We were all freaking out because we knew there was a house being built in, I can't remember what that soundstage was called anymore, but the building that existed where Transformers exists now, they had already started construction on a house in that location, and rumors started swirling that permits had been filed to demolish the building, and we're like, wait, how? There's a house being built there. And sure enough, and it was just so timed to be perfectly matched with the week I moved to Orlando, where I walked into the park and saw with my own eyes that they were bulldozing the building. There was a giant hole in the building where this house was supposed to exist. So sure enough, That soundstage was demolished for Transformers, and we lost a house in 2012. That house at the time had been rumored to be a Mayan apocalypse house or possibly a Chupacabra house, and the rumors were still swirling around it, but it was 2012, so we'd heard maybe like a doomsday 2012 Mayan prophecy house, but then also Chupacabra. So I don't know if those two were meshed together, mixed in, not sure, but it sounds like the concept for that house has returned for this year as an original El Chupacabra. I'm sure that's not what it's actually gonna be called, but it looks like we're seeing a return of that 2012 house that got scrapped for Transformers. So that's exciting. I'm very interested to see. Maybe it's not the same house, maybe it's just the same idea and they've completely changed what's going to be in it, but I can't wait to see what it is. For Seaside Village, there are a lot of rumors swirling that this is somehow connected to or related to Dead Man's Wharf, the scare zone that we had in the San Francisco area in 2014? I think it was 2016. I'm correcting myself already. I'm pretty sure it was 2016, but the years all blend together after a while. So that could be interesting, taking a scare zone and taking that small idea and branching it out into a full house. Very excited to see what they do with that one, especially since, according to this map, it's going to be in a soundstage. We also have underground creatures, which is very ambiguous, and I'm not really going to dive into that one yet because there's still a lot unknown. Obviously, it's early rumor season. I don't want to speculate too much on that. We did have a creatures house back in 2008. I didn't get to experience it because it's the year I didn't come to Horror Nights, but I've heard numerous hilarious stories about it. So if you haven't heard about Creatures, the original version, it went hilariously wrong. They had these giant creature costumes and then they couldn't fit them in the house. Like the actors couldn't get out of set in order to go on break, and it just all went downhill. My roommate that I used to live with in Orlando had been in that house, so I heard all the stories and it sounds like it was hysterically, wonderfully bad. Hopefully it's not that Creatures, but we shall see with time. So before I start diving into my insights on this, I did want to point out one very interesting aspect of this map, and that is the Weeknd's house location, which is the Fast and Furious queue. So those of you who have been around Horror Nights for a while know that we used to always use the Disaster queue as a house location. But when they removed Beetlejuice and Disaster to create Fast and the Furious, obviously we could no longer use that location. However, now construction's done. They've got a giant extended queue that rarely ever gets used because the ride is not very popular. So why couldn't they use that space? Now, I do feel for those actors because I don't believe any of those areas are air conditioned. I don't think I've ever been in the extended queue for that. I've only been on the ride once, I'll be honest, and we did not have to wait very long because that was always a tough part of being cast in the Disaster queue, was that it was not temperature controlled. I don't know enough about that queue in order to understand the logistics of building a house there, but I know they have the space. So curious. We knew something was going to happen with Shrek being shut down. We knew we were going to most likely lose that location for now. I think we will get that location back in the future. So for now, it looks like we're getting Supercharged Q as our final house location. So that is the map as it stands, our first rumors map from Horror Night Nightmares. So it is very early in the rumor season and I expect a lot on the map is going to change, but I want to discuss a few items that I feel like are going to change very quickly. First of all, like I said, I have heard 6 IPs for originals, which tends to be our split on a non-anniversary year in recent years. So I expect 6 IPs for originals. I don't think we're getting the Pandora's Box house. So if you remove that, add another original, that would bring us to 4. And I don't consider Pandora's Box an IP, but I don't think that's the original that we're getting. So not that I think that this is going to be a super popular idea, but just don't get your heart set on the Pandora's Box. I don't think we're going to see that. Could be wrong, but I don't think we're going to see that. I also don't think we're going to see Evil Dead. I have heard other IPs swirling in the background, but I don't think Evil Dead is going to be the IP in that spot. I also don't think we're going to see The Last of Us. And my reasoning for that is, yes, it's a video game, but it's also going to be a TV show, and the TV show has been postponed to 2023. So I don't think they're gonna do a house in 2022 for a series that's not coming out until 2023. Now, could we see it next year? Absolutely. But I think with it being delayed, we're not gonna see it at the event this year. Keep it in mind for 2023, there is an HBO series coming, The Last of Us, and I could see it then. So those are the three things I have automatically that I think are going to change. I think we're gonna see 2 different IPs and another original. Those are my predictions. I'm not diving any deeper than that yet. It's too early in the season to dive deeper than that. But from my perspective, that's what I'm seeing. Now, I'm not confirming that everything else on that map is correct. There's probably plenty of other things that are going to change. Those are just the 3 that I feel the most strongly aren't going to remain. So take that for what you will. There's still lots of time for rumors to change and properties to change. You just never know what's gonna happen. And obviously it's rumor and speculation season for a reason. I hope you guys are getting excited for Horror Nights 31. Make sure to leave me a comment down below and let me know which item on this map you are most excited to potentially see. And I will see you guys whenever there's something else to report on. When there's a house announcement, when there's another speculation map, I will be back to talk about it, to cover it, and have a little chat. So make sure to subscribe if you aren't already to follow along with all the Horror Nights news for 2022. And I will see you guys in the next one. Bye.